Welcome to JLive. I'm Laura Mandel, JArts Executive Director, and it's great to be with you for JLive, our JArts virtual series of bite-sized conversations about Jewish life and art with the best artists with Boston connections. Today, I feel very lucky to be with musician Josh Jacobson, the beloved founder of and director of the Zamir Chorale of Boston. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Laura. It's great to be here. I feel bite-sized.
I love it. In these screens, right?
Right.
Of course. So, as always, if you have questions during the conversation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we will answer as many of them as time allows. So, to kick us off, I would love us to watch a video of a piece that I really loved that Zamir did last year, a piece called There Must Be Another Way, featuring Israeli superstar Achinoam Nini, or Noah, as we call her. So let's start there.
עינייך אחות, כל מה שליבי מבקש אומרות, עברנו הרחוב, דרך ארוכה, דרך כל קשה, יד ביד והדמעות זולגות, זולמות עכשיו כאב, ללא שם, אנחנו מחכות, רק ליום שיבוא. وعنا خيال نكمل هالمسار مهما طال لأنه ما في عنوان وحيد عنوان وحيد للأحزان بنادي للمدى للسماء There must be another way. There must be another way. There must be another יחד אל האור, עיניי בטעור, כל החוף יזול. And when I cry for both of us. My pain has no name. And when I cry to the merciless sky and say, there must be another way. והדמעות זולגות זורמות לשווא כאב, ללא שם, אנחנו מחכות, רק ליום שיבוא אחרי. There must be another way. There must be another way. There must be another, must be another, must be another way.
Josh, that is such a beautiful piece, and we could probably talk about that alone for 20 minutes. But just give me the snapshot. What did we just see?
Sure. That's a piece written by Achinoam Nini about the fact that one shouldn't give up hope and one needs to have empathy for the other side. And she sang it. She paired herself with a Israeli Arab singer, Mira Awad. So when we did it, and we did it during the pandemic, as you could tell from the virtual choir format, we had one of our own Jewish singers, Corey Shore, and we got a wonderful Arab Israeli soprano from Jerusalem by the name Rania Atik, and she recorded hers, and we were able to put that together. So we also had the two different cultures mixing in there. It's a great song with an amazing message. Yep.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Well, and so I know that the reason this I think spoke to me so much is it actually tells so much about your backstory and how you come to this work. So, as you said to me, your dad was not just a painter actually, but really a Jewish painter, which I think is really interesting. And so it's only natural to me that you are this force of nature in the Jewish musical world because it is in your bones and in your DNA. So tell us a little bit about growing up with your dad, who was an Orthodox painter, and how that informed everything you do.
Yes, yes. My father was an artist, and he was very much a practicing and devoted Jew. His father was an Orthodox rabbi from the old country, Roxbury, and he and his wife, my grandparents, had a catering hall, and some of the older listeners might remember the Empyrean Plaza in Roxbury. So my father decided to be an artist, and uh, his father was a little skeptical about how he could make it and stay as a Jew and be an artist, but he did, and a lot of his artwork is Jewish themed, and yes, that set an example for me to be a musical artist and also very much involved in Judaica.
Wow, that's great. So I also understand that Camp Yavna, our beloved local overnight camp, really was seminal in your development as a musician. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, I think I did 9 summers at Camp Yavna, and it was beloved. And back in the 1960s, late 50s, early 60s, it was a total Hebrew speaking camp, total immersion in Hebrew and Israeli culture. So I met a friend by the name of Josh Keval, and he and I started a duet. We had the original name of Josh and Josh, and we both played guitars. You know, it was the 60s when we sang folk songs from many countries with a lot of Jewish and Israeli content. And then 1962, I think it was, I was 14 years old, and there was a new music counselor at Camp Yavna. His name was Stanley Sperber. And Stanley raised things to a whole nother level. He started a 4-part choir, and I said, whoa, can make even better harmony this way. So I got hooked on choral music, and specifically choral music with Jewish themes, and Stanley became my mentor. And a few years later, in 1969, he said, why don't you start a Zamir Chorale in Boston? That's how it started.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so continuing along your trajectory, you then went to college for music. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
It was intimidating. I mean, you can be at your top of your class in high school, and then you get to college and everybody's been at the top of their class. So I wanted to be a music major, and there were all these child prodigies who no longer were children, but they were still amazing musicians. And there I was with a late start, and I just kept taking piano lessons and studying until I was able to start going. But I mean, for example, I don't know if you know the name John Adams, was one of the great American composers today. He was in my class, and it was, as I say, it was intimidating, but it was also inspirational.
Wow. Sounds like a good balance there. You need a little intimidation to be inspired sometimes.
Yes, yes, necessity is the mother of invention, as is Frank
Absolutely.
Zappa too. But
I love it.
and
Okay,
then
so
everything changed completely when I left Harvard in 1969 and then started at New England Conservatory. And at Harvard, it was all about music theory and music history, and at the conservatory, it was all about performance. So that was a big, big shift that took place then. But it was good.
wow.
Yep.
That's really interesting because that leads so beautifully into the next piece of things, which is okay, you've established Zamir Chorale of Boston. You have this incredibly successful group of really talented musicians. Let's watch another piece that I want to hear about. A piece that I think just shows the really fun side of the group. Cafe Bakef.
Yeah. All right, so that's a Hebrew version of the song Java Jive, written by Ben Oakland and Milton Drake, and made famous in the 1940s by the Ink Spots. And this is Tzvi Sherf, who's an Israeli musician composer, conductor, arranger, and he translated it into Hebrew with very much Israeli idioms, not just a word for word translation. Café b'keif means coffee for fun. And then those who understand the Hebrew will also get some of the references to the way they drink coffee in Israel.
So clever. Let's watch.
Enjoy.
I think maybe I'm drawn to that one because I learned to drink coffee from Israeli friends. So maybe it just resonates with me. But I love that one. And I just love how you use so many different modalities to tell stories through your music. And in that, it's playfulness and it's fun. It's a mix of Hebrew and, other languages in your work. So something that I'm particularly drawn to that I think is really important to you is this vision for Zamir, just as we do with J Arts, to think about how is this broader than just about Jewish music for Jews and how we tell stories to everyone else. So tell us a little bit more about how you view that.
Yeah, I mean, it stems perhaps from an inferiority complex. I was taught there was real music and then there's Jewish music. And then I learned that there's a lot of Jewish music that is real music, but most of my colleagues in the choral world don't know that. All they know is in December they have to do a Hanukkah song, and then they have these really inane, stupid little Hanukkah songs along with all this wonderful Christmas music. So a part of my mission has been outreach to other choirs and other choir conductors to get this music published, to let them know about it. We started a website a couple of years ago called jewishchoralmusic.com, where people can learn all about the repertoire, and that it's more than just dreidel songs and Hava Nagila and Mayid Shamama. As the viewers are seeing here in this just little excerpt from a few things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, we totally are on the same page. I think it's amazing what you've done for Jewish culture through this work. Okay, I have too many more questions, so I'm I'm going to pick up the pace
Let's
here
go.
a little. Okay, you told me the other day that one of the most important Zamir works, as you saw it, was with a Middle Eastern group called Bustan. Correct me,
Abraham.
you say it so I don't mess this up. Please tell us.
Bustan, Abraham, or Avraham, or Ibrahim, depending on which language you want to finish it with.
Okay, so tell me about that project and why was it so important for you?
So we had determined to do a concert called Middle Eastern Harmonies that year. And actually, I had commissioned a piece from a Arab American composer. It turned out we weren't able to do the piece, and we said, well, what are we going to do? So I turned to a friend, Amir Milstein, who's a flutist, lives in the Boston area, and he originally was with this group called Bustan Abraham, which is an Israeli ensemble of mostly instrumentalists who were dedicated to bringing together Jewish and Arab musicians in Israel. The group had disbanded about 10 years before this, but we created a reunion concert for them. And we brought, one of them came from New York, a couple of them came from Israel. And so we did this joint concert. Part of the concert was the Bustan doing their repertoire. Part of the concert was just Zamir. And then the most fun part was when the two ensembles were together. And it wasn't just important and fun musically. I think it sent an important message. Like with that first piece that you played, There Must Be Another Way. Here we are setting an example for another way through musical collaboration. You know, that word collaborator can have a negative impact also. On the other hand, there's a beauty to it, and I think a necessity to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something really important. And it's this is the beauty of art and music, what we can accomplish through it by coming together. Okay, so here's another question I want to know. You mentioned that the Sacred Service by Ernest Bloch is what you consider to be the most important Jewish choral piece. Tell us why.
Sure. So Ernest Bloch, great Swiss Jewish composer who came to America in the 1910s, was living in the San Francisco area. He was commissioned by Temple Emmanuel of San Francisco to write a setting of the Hebrew service, of the Reformed Jewish service. So he set about writing it, and within a few months he said, this is no longer just a Jewish service, this is a cosmic oratorio for all of humankind. So he wrote this 50-minute piece for chorus and large orchestra, baritone soloist, and even a narrator. It just doesn't work as liturgical music. It doesn't work as a service, but it is unbelievably great as a musical expression. Just to give you an example, the end of the piece, which is a setting of the Adon Olam. Now, most of us were familiar with that melody. We rattle it off really quickly, sometimes with silly tunes at the end of the service. But Bloch looked at what the words meant, this idea of the infinity of space and time as God. And you listen to that music from the fifth movement, and whoa, you can feel that cosmic sense. Some of it is more grounded. Zamir has been performing the second movement of it many times in the last couple of years. It's certainly accessible, but it's great music. It's the only setting of the Jewish service that would rival what, let's say, Beethoven did with his Missa Solemnis for the Catholic service. It's great art.
Beautiful. Josh, I feel like in these short 20 minutes, I've gotten quite the education, and this has been really interesting. Thank you so much for being with us. Before we play us out, I just want to note that you have a show coming up in May that I would love for you to tell us about first.
Sure, the theme is very timely. We call this concert A Better World, and we've actually been planning this for a couple of years. And it's music about how the world can be a better place. A lot of it has texts from Isaiah about the end of days when the lion will lie down with the lamb and we will beat our swords into plowshares. And there's music that is both classical and from jazz traditions. It's all over the place. And that's in May, I think May 26th is the date. And if you go to zamir.org on your browser, you can find out more about it. And I just have to tell you that rehearsing this music these weeks has just given us so much hope and raised our spirits in this very, very difficult time. One of the pieces, if I can just take another minute,
Yeah,
that we're
please.
doing is Somewhere Over the Rainbow, written by Harold Arlen in 1938, I think it was. So it's not just about Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz wanting to leave her black and white world into a colorful world, but it's also about the Jewish composer reacting to what was going on to the Jews of Europe at that time. And as we're singing it now, we're thinking of what's going on in Europe at this time. And while we may not be able to change anything, but at least we're changing something in our hearts.
Oh, it's beautiful. Josh, this has really been wonderful. And with going on this trajectory of just the natural evolution here, I want to close us out with Zamir's performance of Sim Shalom, because I think it's just perfect as we go into Shabbat. So before we play us out with that, will you please tell us about what we are about to watch?
Sure. Music by Max Janowski, a composer who was born in Berlin, was lucky enough to get out in 1933, eventually came to Chicago and became a synagogue music director. And this is the Prayer for Peace, and you'll see our performance of it in Berlin at the Louis Lewandowski Festival about, 10 years ago, perhaps.
Awesome. So we'll play us out with that. And I assure everyone out there that we will send links to the many things Josh has mentioned today. Thank you so, so much for being with us. More to
My
come.
pleasure.
And we'll play us out with Sim Shalom.
Adonai.